She walked past him like he was invisible, designer heels clicking against marble, and said 5 words that would change everything. The morning light barely touched the 40th floor of Meridian Tech when Marcus Reed pushed his cleaning cart through the glass doors. 6 a.m. The building was still wrapped in silence, the kind that made even the softest sounds echo. He wore navy coveralls with his name stitched crookedly on the chest pocket, scuffed work boots, and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. His hands, calloused and worn, gripped the handle of the mop bucket as he moved methodically down the hallway. No one looked at him. No one ever did. That was exactly how he wanted it. Marcus had built Meridian Tech from a cramped garage 15 years ago, turning code into capital, ideas into infrastructure. Now the company employed over 3,000 people across 12 countries. His face had been on magazine covers, his name whispered in boardrooms from Silicon Valley to Singapore. But 6 months ago, everything had changed. His co-founder and closest friend Daniel had died suddenly. Heart attack at 42, no warning, no goodbye. The grief had been suffocating, but worse than the grief was the realization that followed. Marcus had no idea who actually ran his company anymore. He approved budgets from conference rooms 30 floors up, but never walked the halls. He knew shareholders by name, but not the people who kept the lights on, who answered phones, who made the coffee that fueled every late-night deadline. So he made a decision that his board of directors would have called insane. He stepped down publicly, citing a need for reflection. He installed a temporary CEO, a trusted executive who knew the plan, and then Marcus Reed, billionaire founder, became Marcus the Janitor. He had been invisible for 2 weeks now, and he had learned more about his company in those 14 days than in the previous 14 years. He learned that the third-floor break-room coffee machine had been broken for 6 months and no one had bothered to fix it. He learned that Sharon in accounting cried in the stairwell every Tuesday after her ex-husband's calls. He learned that the security guard, Miguel, sent half his paycheck back to his mother in Honduras. He learned who stayed late without compensation, who took credit for others' work, and who genuinely cared about the mission he had once believed in. But today, he was about to learn something else entirely. The elevator doors opened on the 20th floor, and out stepped a young woman in a tailored cream blazer, leather portfolio tucked under one arm, confidence radiating from every step. Her dark hair was pulled into a sleek ponytail, her makeup flawless. She wore ambition like perfume. Her name was Vanessa Chen. No, wait, he caught himself. Not Chen. The instructions were clear. Use only first names. American names. Her name was Vanessa Cole. She was new. Marcus had seen her badge photo in the system during his late-night reviews. Fresh MBA from a prestigious school, brought in as part of the summer internship program. She had been here exactly 4 days. Vanessa walked past him without a glance, already on her phone, voice sharp and certain. No, I need the reports by noon, not end of day. Do you understand the difference? Marcus pushed his cart toward the corner office, the one that used to be his. Now it belonged to Richard Caldwell, the interim CEO. He began emptying the trash bins, ears open, eyes down. Vanessa swept into the conference room adjacent to the office. Through the glass walls, Marcus watched as she spread documents across the table, her movements precise and purposeful. 2 other interns entered behind her, both looking nervous. Sit, Vanessa said, not looking up. We have 90 minutes before the presentation, and frankly, your section on market analysis is embarrassing. One of the interns, a younger guy with glasses, shifted uncomfortably. I thought we were supposed to collaborate on that part. Vanessa looked up slowly, her smile thin. Collaboration implies equal contribution. What you gave me was a rough draft a high schooler could have written. I just meant, I don't have time for excuses, Kevin. Fix it or I'll do it myself and make sure Richard knows who actually pulled their weight. Kevin's face flushed. He nodded, eyes dropping to his laptop. Marcus wiped down the window ledge, jaw tight. He had seen this before. Ambitious, sharp, hungry for recognition. Nothing inherently wrong with that. But something about her tone, the casual cruelty, set his teeth on edge. Vanessa's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and smiled, a real one this time, warm and bright. "Hey, Daddy." Her voice shifted completely, sugary and light. "Yes, I'm already making an impact. Richard said my insights during yesterday's meeting were impressive." She paused, laughing softly. I know. I told you I'd make you proud." She walked toward the window, her back to the others, voice dropping slightly but still audible. "The other interns are fine, nothing special. I'll be the one they remember." Another pause. "Of course I'm being a team player." "But you always said, nice gets you nowhere. Results get you promoted." She hung up, and the warmth vanished instantly. Marcus moved to the next office, pushing his cart slowly. He had heard enough for now. Over the next 3 days, Marcus watched Vanessa carefully. She was smart, no question. Her presentations were polished, her analysis sharp. But every success came with a shadow. She took credit for ideas that originated in group brainstorming sessions, presenting them as solo insights. When a colleague's suggestion improved her work, she absorbed it without acknowledgement. During a team lunch, she laughed loudly at Richard's jokes, but barely spoke to the analysts and assistants sitting at the far end of the table. And she never, not once, acknowledged Marcus. He had cleaned her office 3 times. She had walked past him in hallways at least a dozen times. Once she had stepped around his mop bucket without breaking stride in her phone conversation, as if he were furniture. It was not personal, he knew that. To her, he was invisible because invisibility was what people like him were supposed to be. But it still stung. On Thursday afternoon, Marcus was wiping down the elevator mirrors when he heard voices approaching. He recognized one immediately. Richard Caldwell, the interim CEO. The other was Vanessa. "Your proposal for the client retention strategy was excellent," Richard was saying. "Bold, but backed by solid data." "Thank you, sir. I believe in taking calculated risks." "That's exactly the mindset we need here. You remind me of Marcus Reed, actually. He built this company on that same instinct." Vanessa laughed lightly. "I've read about him. Visionary, obviously, but from what I understand, he stepped back. Maybe the pressure got to him." Richard's tone cooled slightly. "Marcus is dealing with personal matters. He'll return when he's ready." "Of course," Vanessa said smoothly. "I didn't mean any disrespect." The elevator doors opened. They stepped inside. Marcus remained in the corner, invisible, mop in hand. Richard pressed the button for the executive floor. Vanessa glanced at Marcus briefly, then turned back to Richard. "I wanted to ask your advice about something," she said. "I've been thinking about my career trajectory post-internship." "You're ambitious. I respect that. My father always taught me that opportunities don't wait for permission. He built his own company from nothing, and he expects the same drive from me." "Smart man." Vanessa smiled. "He is. He's actually a major investor in several tech firms. I grew up around boardrooms and negotiations. This world isn't new to me." The elevator slowed. Richard stepped out, then paused. "Keep up the strong work, Vanessa. We're watching." The doors closed. Vanessa stood alone with Marcus now. She pulled out her phone, scrolling absently. Marcus continued wiping the mirrors, watching her reflection. Then her phone rang. She answered immediately. "Hey, Jess." Her voice shifted again, younger, more genuine. "No, I can talk. What's up?" A pause. Her expression softened. "I know it's hard, but you made the right call leaving that job. You deserve better than a boss who doesn't value you." Another pause. She leaned against the elevator wall, and for a moment the polished armor cracked. "Listen, you're the most talented designer I know. Don't let one toxic workplace make you doubt that." Her voice was warm now, earnest. "You've got this. And if you need a reference or introduction, I'm here, always." She hung up, and the warmth lingered for just a moment before she straightened, checked her reflection, and became Vanessa the intern again. The elevator doors opened. She stepped out without a glance back. Marcus stood alone, mop still in hand, mind turning. Maybe there was more to her than he had seen. Or maybe kindness was selective, reserved only for those she deemed worth it. He would wait. He would watch. And soon he would know exactly who Vanessa Cole really was. Friday arrived with an unexpected tension. Marcus heard the whispers as he moved through the building. Budget cuts, layoffs, restructuring. His heart sank. He had approved a financial review before stepping back, but he had trusted his executive team to handle it carefully, with humanity. Now he was not so sure. By mid-morning, the announcement came via company-wide email. 10% reduction in workforce, effective immediately. Marcus watched from the supply closet as employees gathered in clusters, faces pale, voices hushed. Some cried. Others stared blankly at computer screens. In the intern bullpen, Vanessa sat composed, reading the email without visible reaction. Kevin, the intern she had criticized days earlier, looked devastated. "My roommate works in customer support," Kevin said quietly. "He just got called into HR." Vanessa glanced up. "That's unfortunate." "Unfortunate?" Kevin's voice cracked. "He has student loans. Rent. He can't just—" "Then he'll find another job," Vanessa interrupted, not unkindly but matter-of-factly. "That's how this works. Companies make decisions. Employees adapt. Easy for you to say. You're not worried about being cut." Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "I'm not worried because I made myself indispensable. Maybe if others did the same, they'd still have jobs." Kevin stood abruptly and walked out. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. That afternoon he was cleaning the executive floor when he heard shouting. He moved quietly toward the sound. Richard's office. The door was ajar. "You can't be serious," a woman's voice said, thick with emotion. Marcus recognized her. Linda Hayes, a project manager who had been with the company for 8 years. "I'm sorry, Linda. The decision has been made. I've given everything to this company. I've worked weekends, missed my daughter's recitals, restructured entire teams, and we're grateful. But the numbers don't lie. We need to cut costs. Then cut executive bonuses. Cut the catered lunches and the corporate retreats. Don't cut the people who actually do the work. It's not that simple." "It never is," Linda said bitterly. "You know what Marcus would have done? He would have found another way. He built this company on loyalty. Marcus isn't here." The words hung heavy. Linda walked out, shoulders shaking. She passed Marcus in the hallway without seeing him, tears streaming down her face. Marcus stood frozen, his hands gripping the cleaning cart so tightly his knuckles turned white. He had trusted his team to protect his people, and they had failed. He had failed. That evening, after most employees had left, Marcus made his way to the basement archives. He needed to see the numbers himself, understand exactly what had led to this. The archives were dimly lit, rows of file cabinets and old servers humming quietly. He found the financial records easily enough. Years of revenue reports, expense accounts, executive compensation packages. And there it was. Executive bonuses had increased 40% over 2 years. Corporate spending on non-essential luxuries had tripled. Meanwhile, employee raises had stagnated. Benefits had been quietly reduced. The company was not failing. It was being bled. Marcus sat in the darkness, documents spread before him, and felt rage and shame in equal measure. He had been so focused on growth, on expansion, on board meetings and investor calls that he had stopped seeing the foundation he had built upon, the people. And now they were paying for his blindness. He heard footsteps. Someone else was in the archives. Marcus moved silently between the shelves, peering around the corner. Vanessa. She stood at a filing cabinet, pulling folders systematically, photographing documents with her phone. Her expression was focused, calculated. Marcus watched, confused. What was she doing? She pulled out an executive compensation report, the same one he had just reviewed. She photographed it carefully, then another and another. Then she made a call. "Hey, it's me." Her voice was quiet, almost conspiratorial. "I've got what you need. The numbers are worse than we thought. If we leak this to the press, it'll tank their stock price long enough for your acquisition offer to look appealing." Marcus's blood went cold. Vanessa listened, then laughed softly. "Daddy, I told you. I'm not just here for the internship. I'm here to help you buy this company at a discount." She paused. "No one suspects anything. I'm just the eager intern, and by the time they realize what's happening, it'll be too late." She hung up, slipped the files back into place, and walked toward the exit. Marcus stood in the shadows, heart pounding, mind racing. Vanessa Cole was not just ambitious. She was a spy, and her father was planning a hostile takeover. Marcus did not sleep that night. He sat in his small apartment, the one he had rented under a false name when he began this experiment, staring at the ceiling as his mind worked through every angle. Vanessa's father was orchestrating a takeover. She was feeding him insider information, weakening the company from within, positioning everything for a lowball acquisition offer that the board, panicked by manufactured crisis, might actually accept. His company, the one he had built with Daniel, the one that bore their shared dreams in every line of code, every product launch, every risk they had taken together, and it was being stolen by a young woman who saw people as obstacles and loyalty as weakness. Marcus looked at his phone. One call could end this. One call to his lawyers, to Richard, to the board. He could reveal everything, have Vanessa escorted out by security, file charges. But something stopped him. He thought about Linda, crying in the hallway, about Kevin, dismissed and diminished, about Miguel, the security guard, and Sharon in accounting, about all the people he had failed to see until he became invisible himself. If he revealed himself now, he would stop Vanessa. But he would not fix what was broken. He needed to do more than catch a thief. He needed to remind his company what it was supposed to be. And he needed Vanessa to reveal herself completely, so thoroughly that no one could deny what had happened. So Marcus Reed, billionaire CEO, decided to remain Marcus Reed, janitor, just a little longer. The following Monday, Marcus arrived early as always, but today he had a plan. He found Vanessa in the 20th floor break room, making coffee, scrolling through her phone. She wore a burgundy dress, sharp and professional. Marcus entered with his cart, began wiping down tables. Vanessa did not look up. "Excuse me, miss," Marcus said, his voice rough, deliberately unpolished. "You dropped this." He held out a folder. It was one of the documents she had photographed, one he had carefully retrieved and printed. Vanessa glanced over, mildly annoyed. "That's not mine." "Found it near your desk last night. Figured it might be important." She looked closer and her expression shifted, just slightly, a flicker of concern. "Oh, thank you." She took it quickly, too quickly. "I must have left it out by mistake." "Lots of numbers in there," Marcus said casually, still wiping tables. "Looks complicated." "It's just intern work, nothing special." "Your daddy must be proud you working so hard." Vanessa's head snapped up, her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" Marcus kept his tone neutral, humble. "Heard you on the phone the other day. Sounded like you two are close." "I don't appreciate being eavesdropped on." "Wasn't trying to, miss." "These halls just echo. Can't help what you hear when you're cleaning." Vanessa stared at him for a long moment, evaluating. Then her expression smoothed into cold politeness. "Well, try to be more discreet." She turned and walked out, heels clicking sharply. Marcus exhaled slowly. He had rattled her. Good. Now he needed to push further. Over the next 2 days, Marcus made himself visible to Vanessa in small, deliberate ways. He cleaned her office while she was on calls, moving slowly, listening. He emptied trash bins that did not need emptying. He He appeared in hallways just as she passed, always polite, always deferential, but always there. Vanessa began to notice. He saw it in the way her eyes tracked him, the slight tension in her shoulders when he entered a room. On Wednesday afternoon, Marcus was cleaning the executive conference room when Vanessa entered with Richard and 2 other senior managers. "We'll need privacy," Vanessa said, glancing at Marcus. "Almost done, miss," Marcus replied, wiping down the table slowly. Richard nodded. "It's fine. Marcus is just finishing up." Vanessa's jaw tightened. "Actually, I'd prefer if we waited until the room is clear. Some of what we're discussing is confidential." Richard looked surprised, but nodded. "Of course. Marcus, would you mind?" "No problem, sir." Marcus gathered his supplies and left, but not before catching Vanessa's expression. Suspicious, irritated, threatened. She was starting to see him, and that was dangerous for her. That evening, Marcus received an encrypted message on his personal phone. It was from his head of security, someone who knew his real identity and his current situation. The message read, "Vanessa Cole's father is Trevor Cole, private equity, known for aggressive acquisitions, currently shorting Meridian stock, meeting scheduled with board member Harrison next week." Harrison. Marcus felt his stomach turn. James Harrison had been on the board for 6 years. Marcus had trusted him, considered him an ally, but if Harrison was meeting with Trevor Cole, then the betrayal ran deeper than one ambitious intern. Marcus typed back, "Keep eyes on Harrison. I need proof." The response came immediately. "Understood." Marcus pocketed his phone and stared out the window of his modest apartment. The city lights blinked like distant stars. He had built Meridian Tech on trust, and now he was learning that trust, unchecked, could become the very weapon used to destroy you. But he was not done yet. Thursday morning brought unexpected chaos. Someone had leaked the layoff details to the press, along with the executive compensation reports. Headlines blazed across tech news sites. Meridian Tech cuts workers while executives enjoy record bonuses. The building buzzed with anger and confusion. Employees gathered in clusters, voices rising. Some called for protests. Others simply looked betrayed. Marcus moved through the crowds, invisible as always, listening. In the intern bullpen, Vanessa sat calm and composed, typing on her laptop as if nothing was happening. Kevin approached her desk, his face flushed with emotion. "Did you see the news?" "Hard to miss," Vanessa replied without looking up. "People are calling for Richard to resign. They're saying the whole executive team is corrupt." "Maybe they are." Kevin blinked. "You don't care?" Vanessa finally looked at him. "Kevin, this is business. Companies rise and fall. Leaders come and go. The only thing that matters is where you position yourself when the dust settles." "That's cold." "That's reality." She returned to her screen. "You should be updating your resume instead of playing moralist." Kevin stared at her, then shook his head and walked away. Marcus, standing near the supply closet, felt his resolve harden. Vanessa had leaked those documents herself. He was certain now. She was escalating the crisis, pushing the company toward collapse so her father could swoop in with his acquisition offer, and she felt nothing. That afternoon, Marcus made his move. He found Vanessa alone in the small archive room on the 20th floor, the same place he had seen her photographing documents. "Afternoon, miss," he said, entering with his cart. Vanessa looked up, clearly annoyed. "This room is occupied." "Just need to empty the recycling. Won't be a minute." She sighed but returned to her files. Marcus worked slowly, deliberately. Then, as if by accident, he knocked over a small stack of folders near her. "Oh, sorry, miss. Clumsy today." He bent down to gather them, and as he did, he glanced at what she was reviewing: acquisition proposals, valuation reports, communication logs with external investors. "Lots of big words in these," Marcus said, handing them back. Vanessa snatched them. "Please be more careful." "Will do." He paused, then added casually, "You know, I worked for a company once that got bought out. Folks at the top made millions. Rest of us got severance checks and good luck wishes." Vanessa's expression remained neutral. "That's typically how it works." "Guess so. Just seems unfair, don't it? People who build something losing it to folks who just got money." "Nothing's fair. That's lesson 1. Marcus straightened, meeting her eyes directly for the first time. "Maybe. But I always thought lesson 1 was treating people right. Guess I'm old-fashioned." Vanessa stared at him, something sharp and cold in her gaze. "You should focus on your job and let people like me worry about the big picture." "Yes, miss." Marcus nodded and left. But as he walked down the hallway, he smiled. He had seen the flicker of unease in her eyes. She was wondering how much he knew. Good. Let her wonder. Friday afternoon, Richard called an emergency all-hands meeting. The entire company gathered in the main atrium, hundreds of employees crowding together, voices hushed with anticipation. Marcus stood at the back, mop in hand, just another face in the crowd. Richard took the stage, looking exhausted. "I know this has been a difficult week," he began. "The news coverage, the internal tensions, the uncertainty about our future. I want to address all of it directly." The room was silent. First, the layoffs. They were a decision made by the executive team based on financial projections. In hindsight, we should have explored other options first. We should have communicated better. For that, I apologize. Some murmurs of acknowledgement. Second, the compensation reports. Yes, executive pay increased, but context matters. Those increases were tied to performance benchmarks, stock options, retention packages. It's not as simple as the headlines suggest. More murmurs, less sympathetic this time. Finally, I want to address the rumors of acquisition offers. There have been inquiries from outside parties, but this company is not for sale. Meridian Tech was built on a vision, a mission to innovate and serve. That hasn't changed. A voice called out from the crowd. "Then where's Marcus Reed?" "If this company means so much, why isn't he here?" Richard hesitated. "Marcus is dealing with personal matters, but he's still very much involved in the company's direction." "Convenient excuse," someone else shouted. The crowd grew restless. Then, from the side of the stage, Vanessa stepped forward. Marcus tensed. "May I say something?" Vanessa asked Richard. He looked surprised but nodded. Vanessa took the microphone, her voice clear and confident. "I'm just an intern, so maybe I don't have the right to speak, but I've been here a few weeks, and I've seen something that concerns me." The room quieted, curious. "I see a company that's lost its way, leadership that's disconnected from the people doing the real work, decisions made in boardrooms that ignore the voices in cubicles." Heads nodded. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Marcus Reed built something incredible, but maybe he left because he saw what this place was becoming. Maybe he knew it was time for new vision, new leadership. Richard's face darkened. "Vanessa?" "I'm not saying this to criticize you, Richard. I'm saying it because people deserve honesty. And honestly, this company needs change. Real change. Not just apologies and promises." The crowd erupted in applause. Marcus watched, stunned. She was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. She had positioned herself as the voice of the people, the brave intern speaking truth to power. And in doing so, she was further destabilizing the company, making it ripe for takeover. Vanessa handed the microphone back to Richard and stepped down, her expression humble, almost shy. But Marcus saw the truth in her eyes. Triumph. That evening, as the building emptied, Marcus made his way to Richard's office. Richard sat alone, head in his hands. "Rough day, sir," Marcus said quietly from the doorway. Richard looked up, barely registering him. "Yeah. For what it's worth, you did your best." Richard laughed bitterly. "Didn't feel like it. That intern made me look like a fool." "She's smart," Marcus agreed. "Real smart. Too smart." "I don't trust her." Marcus stepped inside, closing the door gently. "Maybe you shouldn't." Richard frowned. "What do you mean?" Marcus pulled off his cap, meeting Richard's eyes directly. "I mean, Richard, that Vanessa Cole is working with her father to orchestrate a hostile takeover of this company. She's been leaking information, manipulating employees, and positioning everything for an acquisition offer that'll leave everyone except her family empty-handed." Richard stared. "Who are you?" Marcus smiled sadly. "Someone who's been invisible too long." And then he told him everything. The next morning, Saturday, the executive board held an emergency session. Marcus attended, not as the janitor, but as himself. The board members looked shocked, some relieved, others wary. "You've been pretending to be a janitor?" James Harrison said, his voice laced with disbelief and something else, fear. "I needed to see the truth," Marcus replied, "and I found it." He laid out everything: Vanessa's espionage, Trevor Cole's manipulation of stock prices, Harrison's secret meetings, the manufactured crisis. "This is absurd," Harrison sputtered. "You can't prove any of this." "Actually, I can." Marcus nodded to his head of security, who entered with a laptop. On the screen, photographs, recorded calls, financial transactions, meeting logs, everything. Harrison went pale. "You've been feeding information to Trevor Cole for 8 months, Marcus said quietly, in exchange for a position in the new company post-acquisition. You betrayed us, James." The room erupted. Board members shouted questions, accusations. Harrison tried to defend himself, then simply stood and walked out. Marcus let him go. He had bigger concerns. "What about the intern?" someone asked. "Vanessa Cole will be dealt with," Marcus said, "but not with security escorts and legal threats. She thinks she's untouchable. I'm going to show her she's not." Monday morning, Vanessa arrived at work, confident, radiant. She had heard rumors of a major announcement and assumed it was the acquisition news. She walked into the building, heels clicking, smile bright, and stopped. In the atrium, where the all-hands meeting had been held, stood a man in an immaculate suit. He was tall, composed, familiar, Marcus Reed. Vanessa's smile faltered. Around her, employees whispered, pointed, stared. Marcus stepped forward, microphone in hand. "Good morning, everyone. I know I've been away, but I'm back now." Applause, tentative at first, then building. "I've spent the last few weeks learning about this company from a different perspective. I worked alongside you, cleaned your offices, listened to your concerns, and I learned that we've lost our way." Heads nodded. "I also learned that there are people who would exploit that, people who see this company not as a community, but as an opportunity." His eyes found Vanessa in the crowd. "Vanessa Cole, would you please come up here?" Every eye turned to her. She stood frozen, her face a mask, but her eyes wide with dawning horror. "Now, please," Marcus said, his voice gentle but firm. Slowly, Vanessa walked forward. The crowd parted like water. She climbed the steps to the stage, standing across from Marcus. "You gave an inspiring speech Friday," Marcus said, "about honesty and change. I'd like to give you a chance to practice that honesty now." "I don't know what you're talking about," Vanessa said, her voice steady. "No?" Marcus pulled out his phone, tapped the screen. Her voice filled the atrium. "Daddy, I told you." "I'm not just here for the internship. I'm here to help you buy this company at a discount." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Vanessa's face drained of color. "You used your position here to steal confidential information," Marcus continued. "You manipulated employees, leaked sensitive documents, and orchestrated a crisis, all to help your father acquire this company at a fraction of its value. That's not—" "It is." Marcus's voice was calm, almost sad. "And the worst part? You're brilliant, Vanessa. You could have done incredible things here, but you chose to see people as tools instead of humans. You chose ambition over integrity." Vanessa's mask finally cracked. Anger flashed in her eyes. "You don't understand anything," she said, voice shaking. "I grew up watching my father build empires while people like you got praised for luck. I learned that sentiment is weakness, that only results matter. That's what your father taught you, Marcus said quietly. But he was wrong. He turned to the crowd. I built this company with a friend who believed people mattered most. We made mistakes, lost sight of that sometimes, but the foundation was always care. Vanessa, you never learned that. And that's not strength, that's emptiness. Vanessa stared at him, and for just a moment, something vulnerable flickered across her face. Then it was gone. She turned and walked off the stage, through the silent crowd, and out the door. No one stopped her. Marcus watched her go, feeling not triumph, but something sadder. Security will escort her from the property, he said finally. Legal will handle the rest. But right now I want to talk about us. He faced his employees. I failed you. I got so focused on growth that I forgot why we were growing. I'm sorry, and I'm going to fix it. He outlined his plan, restoring jobs, cutting executive compensation, creating employee ownership programs, rebuilding trust. When he finished, the applause was thunderous. Later that day, Marcus stood in his office, the one he had cleaned just days ago. Richard knocked softly. You did the right thing, Richard said. Did I? Marcus looked out the window. I humiliated a young woman in front of hundreds of people. She was stealing from us. She was doing what she was taught, by a father who values winning over everything else. Marcus sighed. Maybe if someone had shown her a different way earlier. You can't save everyone, Marcus? No, but I can try to build a place where people don't have to become her to succeed. Richard nodded and left. Marcus stood alone, thinking about Vanessa, about Daniel, about all the invisible people he had finally learned to see. 3 months later, Meridian Tech had stabilized. The stock price recovered. Employees returned to work with renewed purpose. And Marcus, though back in his corner office, made it a point to walk the halls, learn names, ask questions. He never forgot what invisibility had taught him. One afternoon, his assistant knocked. There's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important. Marcus looked up. Who? Vanessa Cole. Marcus sat back, surprised. Send her in. Vanessa entered, and she looked different. No power suit, no polished armor, just jeans, a simple blouse, and uncertainty in her eyes. I wasn't sure you'd see me, she said. I wasn't sure either, Marcus admitted. But sit. She did. Silence stretched between them. I'm not here to apologize for what I did, Vanessa said finally. I knew it was wrong. I did it anyway. Then why are you here? Because you were right. About the emptiness, her voice cracked slightly. I went home after everything happened. My father was furious, not because of what I did, but because I got caught. He said I was sloppy, weak. She looked down at her hands, and I realized I'd spent my whole life trying to earn love from someone who only values winning. I became everything he wanted, and it cost me everything I could have been. Marcus said nothing, just listened. I don't expect forgiveness, Vanessa continued. I just wanted you to know that what you said mattered. It broke something open, and I'm trying to figure out who I am when I'm not performing for him. Marcus leaned forward. That's the hardest work there is. I know. She stood. Thank you for seeing me. Vanessa, Marcus called as she reached the door. For what it's worth, you're right. You're brilliant. And if you ever figure out who you want to be instead of who you were taught to be, there's a place for that person in the world. She nodded, eyes glistening, and left. Marcus sat alone again, but this time he smiled. Because sometimes the most important lessons come from the people who challenge us most. And sometimes, just sometimes, even those who lose their way can find it again. That evening, Marcus visited Daniel's grave. He did this every week now, sitting on the grass, talking about the company, the changes, the struggles. I think I finally understand what you were trying to tell me, Marcus said to the headstone. It was never about the buildings or the profits. It was about seeing people, really seeing them. The wind rustled through the trees. I saw a young woman destroy herself trying to prove she was worth loving. I saw employees I'd ignored for years. I saw my own blindness. He placed a hand on the cold stone. Thank you for building this with me, Daniel. I promise I'll protect it. Not the company, the people. That's what you would have wanted. He stood, brushed off his pants, and walked back to his car. Tomorrow, he would be CEO again, visible, responsible, human. But he would never forget the lessons learned while invisible. Because sometimes, to truly see the world clearly, you first have to disappear into it. And in that disappearance, find exactly who you were meant to be. Sometimes we wear titles like armor, forgetting that real strength comes not from what we're called, but from how we see others. Marcus thought invisibility was a disguise, but it became his greatest teacher, and Vanessa learned that borrowed confidence built on cruelty can never replace genuine self-worth. Thank you for sharing this moment of chance, connection, and meaning. If this story reminded you that everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about, then please subscribe to Lucky Encounters. We bring you heartfelt tales of serendipity, where a simple twist of life can change everything. Until next time, stay open, stay hopeful, and remember, the measure of character isn't in titles earned, but in kindness given when no one's watching. Subscribe now and click on one of the stories on your screen for another journey that'll touch your heart.